Hey guys, gals, and fellow VEDS-ies, and welcome back to another day of VEDS. Today's video is again another timed Thursday, so if you missed how this worked last week, I'll give you a quick rundown. Timed Thursdays are videos where I talk about a various topic for 5 minutes that is completely unscripted, and the audio remains unedited, which means all of my flubs are in there, all of my ums are in there, any pauses are in there. It is completely off the cuff. So if you watched Monday's video, Menu Monday, you would know what today's topic is. But if you didn't, I'll just say it right now. Today's Timed Thursday are my quick 5-minute thoughts on the new ride at Epcot in the Norway Pavilion, entitled Frozen Ever After. So with all of that out of the way, let's get that timer up there again, and begin. Alright, so if you remember what I just said before, today I'm talking about Frozen Ever After at Epcot in the Norway Pavilion at Walt Disney World. And some people who have followed this channel for a long time would know my history with this ride and how I thought it was a dumb idea from the moment that they announced it. I didn't like that it was replacing Maelstrom because I thought that was a little bit of an underrated ride. It was one of the few rides left at Disney that wasn't exactly based on something that they owned. It was more based on Norse mythology and the like. But I was silently sort of hoping that it would be a good replacement. But then the ride came out, and off the bat, it didn't score any points for me, mainly because news had came out on opening day that people were waiting 300 minutes, I'm not joking when I say this, 300 minutes for what is essentially a 5-minute dark ride. And I felt like that was ridiculous. Abso-freaking-lutely ridiculous. I don't care how much you liked Frozen, a 5-minute dark ride is not worth a 300-minute wait. You wait for it to come on YouTube, and you watch it, and then you decide if it is really worth your time. But again, moving on to the ride itself. The ride doesn't really have much of a story, which is another problem that I have with it. Now, I'm not saying that Disney dark rides typically have to have a story. Disney dark rides typically play very loose with their movie's story. For example, if you look at Snow White's Scary Adventures, how is it that you start in the Queen's throne room and she becomes the hag, but then you go to the dwarf's cottage and they're doing the yodel song, when in the movie, those scenes were reversed? And why is the witch out there looking into the window at night when she didn't do that in the movie? And I get that. The dark rides typically play very loose with the story that they are based on. But this one doesn't really even make an attempt to tell a compelling story at all. The story that I can gather from this ride, to be perfectly honest, is that Elsa is opening up her ice castle for us to go through. Something that, even if you saw Frozen or the short, Frozen Fever, doesn't even make a lick of sense. But, you know, again, that's basically the story. The music for the ride I also felt was very lazy, because you do hear Let It Go. There's actually a really big scene of Let It Go, with an Elsa audio and animatronic that, I'm sorry, I don't find it that visually impressive, because when they do the projected face, on the dwarves it looked okay. On Elsa, it's kind of lazy, because all of the action of her singing the song is in this projected face. And the only movement the rest of the body that she can do is her sort of moving her arms with CGI ice powers in the background. It wasn't really all that impressive to me when I first saw it. But again, you do get to hear Let It Go, but for the other songs, like In Summer and For the First Time in Forever, they're more like parody versions or sort of covers of them by other characters. For example, For the First Time in Forever, I believe, was sung by Anna and Elsa in the movie, but in the ride, it's sung by Anna and Kristoff with completely different lyrics. In Summer, for example, is sung by Olaf, Anna and Elsa at the very end of the ride. And that's the only other song that I think is sort of a cover that retains the original lyrics. The ride actually begins with Olaf singing Do You Want to Build a Snowman? And Sven's sort of scattered in between the ride. There's not a lot of Sven, which he was sort of my favorite character in that movie. And Kristoff I actually kind of liked. I would actually have said that if I actually did ever finish that Frozen review, which it will get finished eventually, but in the last final minute here, I will say that, is this a worthy successor? A worthy replacement for Maelstrom? I would have to say no. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say that the ride was cheap. The ride is not cheap. It does sort of have elements of quality. However, when all you basically have done is made a ride version of your sing-along attraction that isn't really even a sing-along because you changed the lyrics up on everybody, forgive me if I don't think that that's necessarily the best ride, or it's not even what you could have done with a concept for a Frozen ride. It overall left me wanting more, because I do think the concept could work. So yeah, those were my quick 5-minute unscripted thoughts about Frozen Ever After at the Norway Pavilion at Epcot. If you've seen the ride, or if you've looked at the footage that I've probably put into this video, or have seen the ride on YouTube, and you have thoughts about it, comment below, let me know, and until tomorrow, guys, gals, and fellow VEDS-ies, later.